I like that one more than the last one with the funeral music.
I agree.
That was like a 90s type of.
That was kind of like 90s horror Michael Myers kind of music.
Kind of. This show is a little bit haunting, so that makes sense. Hello to anybody watching. If you're watching on anywhere but YouTube, definitely go subscribe to YouTube. That's something we're trying to grow a lot. And you can comment there and we can read the comments. So that is going to be a big thing. This is our fantasy football show. I'm Zach Bruner, Luke Reimer in the middle, Trevor Land on the right. You can see Trevor's face this week. That's a new addition to the show, I think.
That's how we're improving on YouTube.
That's right. Hey, that's what more subscribers gets us. The more you subscribe, the clearer Trevor's face will become. So please keep subscribing.
We should be like putting it out into Patreon or something.
Trevor's
Are you trying to get subscribers or trying to lose them?
I'm not sure at this point. We will see. But a few things before we get into it. We are just going to be going through some fantasy football news, talking about like what this means. Like, is there? First off, none of this really matters, which is always a good thing to say at the start of a show. But let's just get it out there. We're going to be honest. None of this truly matters, but there's a little bit of insight to take. And but FlurrySports is going to be having a free fantasy football draft kit this year, hoping to be the best free fantasy football draft kit. And what we need for that to happen is to know what you want in the draft kit. So if you're on YouTube or anywhere, definitely just comment or write a letter to us. Do whatever the fuck you got to do. Let us know what you want in your perfect draft kit, and we shall do that. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of good content, fantasy football content on FlurrySports.org all NFL season long. A lot of videos, a lot of streams here on YouTube or wherever you are watching. Us three also started Let's Go Wisconsin, Let's Go WI.com for all Wisconsin culture like news. If you want to go read about a self-serve coffee shop and write your angry letters to Trevor about it, that's where you can do that. Otherwise, is there anything else I'm missing? Anything other than just type in your questions if you got any while we're going, and we'll answer those as well.
Yeah. We're not hoping for the best. We will have the best fantasy draft kit.
Yeah,
that's a promise from us three to you.
And another promise we have is if the FlurrySports YouTube page gets to 10,000 subscribers, there will be the first ever crab rangoon eating contest. So,
how will that happen? I don't know. What would that look like? Probably a nightmare. But that is something that could happen. Should happen.
Do you guys remember when they did the hot dog eating contest virtual during COVID?
No, I don't actually.
They were like, it looked like they were like in like these fucking jail cells. It was funny. And that just reminded me like you guys going at it like over Zoom, just mowing down crab rangoon. It'd be great.
It would be something. It would be something for sure. So definitely subscribe to the FlurrySports YouTube channel. We're about 1,000 subscribers away from 10K. We're almost to the 9K mark. So let's try to hit that before NFL season starts. But yeah, let's just jump into some NFL news, some stuff that's going around the league, because this can impact one dynasty for sure. Dynasty values, dynasty trades, everything like that, but also redraft leagues, something you can start preparing for now. If you start preparing in August, you are too late. So we are here to help you win your league. And that starts with preparing at the start of June. First thing, Deebo Samuel has pledged to bounce back from his awful 2022 season. Few things. So he missed some games last year. He was banged up, obviously. He finished as wide receiver 38 in PPR. He was under 50 receiving yards per game. He was around, I believe, this is off the top of my head now, I think he was around wide receiver 28 in PPR points per game, which is equal to another player we'll be discussing in a second. But yeah, like Deebo Samuel, obviously he was like the dual threat machine the year prior. He had a dip last year, but my big question to you guys and what we can discuss, I guess, is like, how much do you expect Deebo Samuel to bounce back? If you consider last season his floor and the season before that as his ceiling, where in that spectrum do you think Deebo is going to be, assuming he's healthy for 16, 17 games?
You would have to imagine it's somewhere between that. I would say, if Deebo Samuel's healthy for all 17 games this year, I'm kind of siding a little more towards his, I guess we want to call it his breakout, as opposed to his, his floor last year. Um, the only thing, I mean, the question is for every single 49ers fantasy football is, I mean, there's only one ball to go around.
Mm-hmm.
Christian McCaffrey is obviously soaks up a million targets a game. George Kittle, like, how can you not get George Kittle involved? It kind of feels like Brandon Ayuk's kind of on the better side of Kyle Shanahan now, and especially if we have Trey Lance going this year, you have to imagine a lot of Trey Lance plays are going to be designed for him to run. It's a lot of mouths to feed, but I think Deebo, like I'll say, like like I just said about George Kittle, I think Deebo Samuel is just too good of a player to not be involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2 receiving touchdowns last year is crazy. I think if you went around and polled the NFL players, Deebo Samuel is probably a top 15 receiver in the NFL, and to get 2 receiving touchdowns, that's crazy. You have to imagine at least that number's up next year.
Yeah, I'd agree with Luke. I don't know if we're ever going to see a top 10 season from him again, just due to the so many mouths to feed. But you'd have to imagine he does better than 40. He just needs to be used more. He needs to be used overall more. I think he only had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games last year where he had more than 8 catches, and barely. I think he had 1, 2 games with over 4 carries. Like, he's a playmaker, and you're not putting him in a position to make plays. So, assuming they start doing that a little better, he's got to be better than 40.
Yeah, I don't have his game log up exactly. I just have his total season stats. But I mean, I think the biggest thing that hurt him last year, and it's going to be the same thing this year, assuming everybody stays healthy, is that Christian McCaffrey takes a lot of Deebo Samuel's plays away from him, because I think Deebo's a great player. Christian McCaffrey's a better player.
Yep.
Plain and simple. He's for sure a better runner. I mean, that's not even a slight to Deebo. Like, the running back's a better runner, and he's a great receiver. So, like, the biggest stat that went down, obviously, I would say, is he went from 8 rushing touchdowns to 3 rushing touchdowns last year.
Sure.
I don't expect him to go back up to 8. Like, I think he's probably a 3-4 touchdown guy, especially the 49ers whole thing is that they're the best team in the NFL, but they get hurt at the worst time. Like, so what do? You spread the touches around. You try to keep people fresh throughout the entire year because you're going to be in it at the end. And that's what the 49ers are going to do. Like, there's no reason for Deebo Samuel to be a bell cow anymore. There's no reason for him to get 20 touches a game. There's no reason for him to get 10 catches a game. Like, there just isn't. So for that, like, even though he had a bad year last year, and to him, awful, it wasn't a good year. I owned him in a lot of leagues. Like, it wasn't a good year. His value hasn't really taken a hit. Like, in terms of this year, his name value is so high, and I'm not sure why. Like, he just made a lot of big highlights, I guess, on national TV. And I guess you had, like, the Traylon Burks coming in last year, and everyone's like, he's the next Deebo Samuel. Like, Deebo's now the guy that people are trying to become, and maybe that's why. But, like, I don't see him rising that much currently. And again, goes back to what I started the show off with. This doesn't mean jack shit right now, unless you're drafting right now, and I can't imagine you are. But he's going as the 16th wide receiver in PPR leagues, which is 35th overall. And that's way too high. In terms of just like 16, let's just say 35 overall. That means he's going ahead of Kenneth Walker, Gibbs. He's going ahead of DeAndre Hopkins, ahead of Aaron Jones.
It's the end of the third round.
End of the mid third round, or maybe early if you're, in a different type of league. Like, it just, he's getting taken too early. I just think his ceiling's not very high. And if he gets hurt, then he's bad.
Yeah, it just, and like, I mean, like Zach, you're alluding to, Trevor, you said, I mentioned, it's just a situation where you have a very good player in a bad fantasy situation, which sucks. Yeah. But I mean, What do you do with it? Are you guys, I know things are going to change for redraft leagues throughout the summer. Right now, are you guys looking? Do you want Deebo Samuel on your team?
I traded him away in Dynasty.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's where my head's at.
Okay.
I do, but I mean, like with anybody else at the right price, I don't see a reason anybody should be drafting Deebo in the first 3 rounds anywhere. 4th round, I probably wouldn't take him either unless there aren't any other great options. 5th round, I think you have to take him, but going 3rd is just ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't hate Deebo Samuel.
No.
If you own him in a dynasty league, he's not a must sell. But like if you can find people who treat him as a top tier guy still, like I think get rid of him. It just doesn't make sense. He's now on his big boy contract, so to speak. Like he made his money. He's now trying to somehow earn big money for the next contract. He's 27, but he's taken a lot of hits. Like the whole thing about him needing to make running back money last offseason, I don't think is completely false. Like I think he knows like he needs to stop taking these massive hits if he's going to get that next contract. And I think that's a big reason why they went and got Christian McCaffrey, because they need more of those types of players. And Deebo can't do it all. So like I think he's going to be inconsistent. I think he's going to finish the year pretty well. But like these are the wide receivers going directly after him in PPR leagues right now. You got Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Kelvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy, Christian Watson, DJ Moore, Drake London, Christian Kirk, Mike Williams. I don't think he's dramatically better than any of those guys. And I think I'd take a lot of those guys ahead of him.
I was going to say, out of the 10 you just listed there, maybe 6 or 7 I'd rather have than Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I think it's for sure close.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at McLaurin, he's had bad quarterbacks for 4 years, and he's never finished lower than PPR wide receiver 29. Not saying that, Deebo can't be 29, but it's definitely not a given.
And just to speak to that, like I said, Deebo's going 35th, McLaurin's going 47th.
Yeah.
So I mean, you can add
a
Jahmyr Gibbs in between and get a wide receiver you think is equal or better.
I think if you poll anyone with football knowledge, they'd rather have McLaurin at 47 than Deebo at 35.
I think so. People are still just dreaming of that, he gets that receiving touchdown and rushing touchdown game.
Right.
And I just don't think it's very likely anymore. And I don't understand. There's 2 schools of thoughts with the 49ers players right now, and they're conflicting, and it doesn't make sense. People love a Deebo Samuel bounce back year. And then the same people are thinking this is the Brandon Ayuk breakout year.
Right.
And I think there's a chance neither happen.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's just for sure one of them's not going to happen.
Right.
But I think there's a strong chance neither does. I don't know. Any final thoughts on Deebo Samuel? I like him. I just think he's overvalued still.
100% agree with you, Zach.
Same, Trevor? Okay, let's talk about another wide receiver who is looking to bounce back. We got Michael Thomas. He was seen at Saints OTAs for the first time. I believe yesterday he spoke to the media as well. A little cocky. I think he needs to dial it back a little bit.
I agree.
Like, yeah, where have you been, Michael?
One game in the last 18 years. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, he needs to chill a little bit. But he was like working off to the side with the quarterbacks, which is a good thing. He took a lot of mental reps. I think I saw clips of him helping out some younger receivers. So, there is something to take away from that. I think he wants to be there, which I think was a question.
Yeah,
like a legitimate question. He no longer has racist Drew Brees as his quarterback, which is cool, but he has crybaby Derek Carr. So like, did he want to still play there? And it looks like he does. So that's good. He also says he expects to be 100% healthy for day 1 of training camp, just like everyone's used to. First thing, we're not used to that. Second thing, that's good though. And I really like Michael Thomas. Again, talking dynasty, he's somebody I traded for. I own him maybe in every dynasty league I have, just because people are selling him for pennies on the dollar. He's an awesome buy low pick. He's an awesome sleeper pick for redraft, I think.
Yep.
He's currently getting drafted wide receiver 47 in PPR ADP right now. So very, very low. But I think it's the 2019 season. He had the record breaking year. He had like 185-ish targets. Ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And the notion about him then was that he is like the most reliable wide receiver in the NFL, most consistent, yada, 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 slant king. Fast forward a couple of years, and the whole thing about him now is that he is the least trustworthy, least consistent, because we can't trust for him to be on the field. I just don't think he's that far removed from being the guy.
I don't either.
Trust him again.
I don't either, Zach. And I think, you know, that year, maybe this is wrong, but in my opinion, that year where he had the record breaking year, I think he won Offensive Player of the Year that year. If not, he was close. I think that receiving core is better than the Saints have now. I mean, for Michael Thomas to come out and say, you know, this year that they have they have the best 1, 2, 3 punch. Like, I get why he says it. 1, 2, 3 punch in the NFL. It's crazy. You would tell me Rashid Shaheed is a top, you know, is the best number 3 receiver in the NFL. Like, what are we doing here? But whatever.
Agreed.
I think yes, if you can buy low on Michael Thomas, if you can get him at that, you know, at wide receiver 47, fucking A. If he's on the field, he's soaking up targets. He's going to be that guy. Much easier to get a quarterback kind of antiquated into an offense than with the receiver who has 180 targets and has broke the record for most receptions in a season. I mean, I don't love Michael Thomas, but I love him for wide receiver 47. Also, Trevor, before you go, did you guys see the tweet? It was very funny. I don't know who tweeted it, but someone said Damar Hamlin died and came back to life and is back faster than Michael Thomas.
True. Michael Thomas hurt his toe. Damar Hamlin died, but that's fine.
Yeah, the only downside is I'm seeing now that Ty Summers is on the Saints and nothing good comes from a team with Ty Summers on it. But, I mean, kind of like your guys were saying, like the other wide receivers, James Washington, Keith Kirkwood. I mean, who the hell is that? Traquan Smith, they've been trying to make him a thing since he caught one long touchdown 20 years ago. We know their tight end situation. So, like, there's nothing around him. Like, there's no reason he shouldn't get plenty of targets. And if he's not the first guy, it shouldn't really matter. And also, wide receiver 47, like, there's no risk there. I don't know. I can't think off the top of my head what round that would be. But that's pretty much a flyer at that point, I'd assume.
I think I especially love him, too, if Alvin Kamara gets put in jail.
True. I mean, I think he's still one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So even if there were better players on the Saints, I think it doesn't matter. If he's capable of handling the snaps, he'll get the snaps. But the fact that there aren't very many people there is even better. He is going 106th overall ADP right now, which is behind Zach Charbonnet, behind Antonio Gibson, Khalil Herbert, Jamison Williams, who's suspended, Juju Smith-Schuster.
So that's
he's going just ahead of Rashad Bateman, who I also think is too low, Jamal Williams, Elijah Moore, Geno Smith, Samaje Perine. So yeah.
ninth-ish round?
Yeah. Like, would you rather have him or Samaje Perine?
Right.
Like, Jesus Christ. What are we doing here? Last year, he played 3 games to start the year. He averaged 17 PPR points per game, which is ridiculous. That was wide receiver 9 in a points per game. Obviously, he wouldn't have kept up that pace because he had 3 touchdowns in 3 games. So I'm not saying he's going to do that. But wide receiver 9 in points per game was right between A.J. Brown and DeAndre Hopkins. Let's just say he drops down 4 points. So let's say he averages 13 points per game. That's wide receiver 28, which was Deebo, who we just fucking talked about.
Yeah.
So if we're saying a wide receiver 47, if he drops 4 points per game, gets the same production as the wide receiver 16 this year, that currently in ADP, like, of course. Yep. Like, to your point, Trevor, he is a no risk, all reward type of player. He's a lottery ticket. You could draft him, I assume, as your wide receiver 4. And I think if he's healthy, he's a solid wide receiver 2.
Yeah, with one upside. Or one potential, I should say.
For sure. Like, then if he gets hurt again, you took him over Samaje Perine. That's fine.
But you're not going to start anyways.
Yeah, and if you do, you lost.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the type of player we need to think about right now. So I think we shouldn't discredit Michael Thomas. If he stays healthy throughout training camp, his stock will rise. It just will. He's going to be making plays. He's going to be looking good. But I mean, he started last year. I should look and see what his ADP was last year because I don't think it was very high last year either. But he started the year. That's because he played the first 3 weeks. That's when he got to 17. In ADP, he was. Oh, whoops. 1 second. Wide receiver 21. That's actually higher than I thought. Just ahead of Allen Robinson. That worked. That's another guy. We'll talk about him eventually. I don't know how to value Allen Robinson this year.
Me either.
I want him to be so good. He's a good football player.
He is.
Son of a bitch. Anything else to say about Michael Thomas, though?
Nope.
Okay, another player who's going to be fully ready for training camp is Gus Edwards. This is a guy I was basically standing on the table for last year, just saying he is getting overlooked for absolutely no reason. It's basically him and Jamal Williams for me. I feel like they're in a similar role every single year. And I like him. He's supposed to be fully ready. He's averaged over 5 yards per carry every single season of his career. He had at least 700 rushing yards in his first 3 seasons, not last year because of the number of games that he played. Like, he's a handcuff with weekly upside in the exact same way Jamal Williams was or has been. Like, he's a guy you can start in your flex in a 12, 14 team league and feel fine about, I think. And then if J.K. Dobbins goes down, as J.K. Dobbins has typically done, like if Gus Edwards is the RB1 going into the week, I feel like he's a top 12 guy.
Every single week.
Yeah, like this is a guy we need to stop completely ignoring. In ADP right now, he is outside the top 50 for sure. Running back 66.
Crazy.
He's behind Corey Clement.
Crazy.
Badger, who is still in the league. Care to guess who he plays for?
I'll give the obvious answer, but I don't think it's not Philadelphia.
No.
Chicago.
He plays for the Cardinals.
Oh, yikes.
He's the RB2 there behind James Conner.
Yikes.
Yeah, Cardinals are going to be good.
What ADP did you say Edwards was?
Running back 66. I don't know what that is overall, but essentially undrafted.
So looking at his position ranks, taking out 2021 when he didn't play a game, 9 games last year, running back 66. In 2020, 2019, 37, 52, and 2018, 56 with 11 games. So he's had 2 seasons. He's played half the season. He's beaten that ADP. And 2 games when 2 years Dobbins was healthy, and he easily beat the ADP.
The ADP.
His ADP is 253, so that is very undrafted.
Very undrafted. Not even undrafted. Very undrafted.
Yeah, like he is only 2 ahead of Salvin Ahmad, who is he's still with the Dolphins. It says they're doing
over under carries for Salvin Ahmad this year. 23.
Over has to be. I don't think so. I think they all get 50. Including Dalvin Cook, who we'll talk about in a second. I feel like he has to go there and be fine, be mediocre. But so Gus, in my opinion, Gus Edwards are the type of last round draft picks that are league winners.
I agree.
Because you just don't know if something just went slightly different for him in 2021. We remember everybody got hurt on the Ravens, which included him, unfortunately. But if J.K. Dobbins goes down in training camp in the preseason and all of a sudden Gus Edwards is the RB1 and you got him in the last round of your draft, you got a guy, if everything else was different, if J.K. Dobbins just wasn't there, he'd probably be a second round draft pick. He's a really good football player. He just has the most boring name. He doesn't make any flashy plays, and he just runs for 5 yards per carry every single time. He's very, very good.
He's one of those guys that you see every year in like the top 20 or every week in the top 20, and you're like, why? And then you see his production and what he does, and you're like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like, I don't think if he ever starts, you can put him anything lower than probably 15.
He's like a 60-yard and a touchdown guy every week.
Awesome.
Like, and those stats don't blow you away either. But like, he does it every time. He's fine. And then I mean, we've talked about how running quarterbacks help running backs all the time. Obviously, Lamar's there. They got good blocking tight ends. They got a really good offensive line. Like, everything's good. Everything's good. And I'm not nervous about the out of context sort of quote that Lamar Jackson's not going to run as much, which is stupid. Like, all right, so you're telling me he's going to drop back to pass and then run? Okay, it's the same thing. Who cares? I mentioned Dalvin Cook. Let's talk about that. The Vikings are listening to Dalvin Cook trade offers, and then side note, Vikings are listening to a lot of trade offers.
I heard Danielle Hunter too.
Yeah, the Vikings are like quietly blowing it up. It's really odd. Like, I don't this all I really take away from that is that the NFC North is bad.
Bad.
Like, if the Vikings are like, yeah, let's try to trade away Danielle Hunter, Dalvin Cook, when looking around at the division, like, this is when they need to go. This is when they need to bring in the players, sign the players, trade for the players, and make the fucking playoffs. But they're looking around like, yeah, we can get rid of Danielle Hunter and save some money. Yeah, Dalvin Cook, probably isn't going to resign. Let's save some money. It's just stupid.
You're right, Zach. They should be doing like the Rams thing, 2 years ago, and just spend all their money in draft picks for 1 year of Super Bowls and then rebuild in the next couple of years.
They're going to have to pay Justin Jefferson $25 million per year after this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to go when he's still on his rookie contract.
Well,
It's
on top
so
of that,
stupid.
too, I mean, to your point, the division is so bad. Even if they split with the Lions, if they go all in, it's 4 easy wins. You got to think from the Packers and the Bears. That's 5 wins right there, 5-1 record. So if you can just go 500 the rest of the way, you're golden.
You're a top 3 playoff seed in the NFC.
Well, and the divisions that the NFC North plays this year aren't crazy either. Like, and the NFC sucks. Like, you're pretty much guaranteed a playoff spot, and then once you get to the playoffs, anything can happen. And right now, the Vikings are sort of making sure that they're not guaranteed a playoff spot. So it makes no sense. But I digress. So Dalvin Cook, most likely on the go somewhere. Like, I feel like if the Vikings don't trade him, they're going to cut him. So destinations. I'm hearing 3. So the 3 I've heard are the Dolphins. Obviously, he's a Miami guy. Didn't choose Miami to go to college. He ended up choosing Florida State, but he wants to go back there. Buffalo's the other one. That's where his brother is. Buffalo could use a good running back. I discredit that a little bit just because I think they really do like Damian Harris a lot. And
for good reason.
I don't think they add a running back without getting rid of somebody. So I don't think they're going to do that. And then the Buccaneers is the other one. We'll talk about Rachaad White in a little bit. Like, the Buccaneers need another running back. And again, Florida guy, I think he works well in that system. So, like, just in terms of Dalvin Cook, where are you valuing him, knowing that he's probably going to go to another team where he's part of a committee? I think that's the thought process right now.
I think that's obviously you bring his value down from what everyone's been projecting him the last couple of years, right? It seems like, Dalvin Cook has always been the kind of guy who's like, oh, he's a workhorse guy. He's a guy who can play rushing and receiving. He can do all these things. We haven't really seen that out of Dalvin Cook a lot. I know injuries have been kind of a thing, but even when he's healthy, like the last couple of years, there just hasn't been real excitement about Dalvin Cook. And I think that would change. Like, Zach, you brought up Tampa Bay there. I would love if Dalvin Cook went to Tampa Bay. Their whole quarterback situation is all fucked up right now. Who knows what's what they're going to do with receivers in the future. And Rachaad White's great. Can Rachaad White kind of carry a team? We don't know. Can Dalvin Cook kind of carry a team? We don't know. But if you figure that those two together probably have a better semblance of carrying a team than a Baker Mayfield or a Kyle Trask. I think out of those 3 teams you listed, I'd be most excited and most willing to draft him if he went to Tampa Bay.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the trade affects things or trade rumblings, because I think everybody's natural predisposition to trades is like, oh my gosh, that team's going to be so good, let's pick them up for fantasy. And I look at all those places, and I don't think they make him any better. I mean, the last 2 years, he hasn't been a top 10 running back PPR wise, and even then, he had a couple big games that buoyed those season stats. And so now you put him in a committee. I don't see it from him, and I also don't trust his injury history. Like, he played a full season last year. That's it. I don't know at the age of 27 how that gets any better just because he's in a committee.
Yeah, to the point of what you both touched on. Yeah, Dalvin Cook finally played a full season last year, and he was only RB11. So, like, we've seen big performances from Dalvin Cook. We've seen him play phenomenally, but he finally put together a full season last year, and he didn't do amazing. Like, we look at people behind him. Leonard Fournette was behind him. He averaged more points per game. He averaged a similar points per game as Alvin Kamara, who was, by all accounts, terrible last year, couldn't even sniff the end zone. He was about around the same production-wise as DeAndre Swift, it looks like. Like, he's just not that great. Like, I think he's fine. And then there's no situation in like that I can think of off the top of my head. So I think there's 31 worse situations for Dalvin Cook.
I would agree with that.
Like, he was on a team last year that was winning games, so playing with leads, scoring a lot of points on a good offense. Offensive line wasn't amazing, but he has played in a division that is notoriously could not stop the run at all. So, like, he has been or cover running backs out of the backfield. So he's been in the best situation. He is aging, and he's going to go to a team that almost definitely will be cutting his touches. So, yeah, I don't love him. If you're a dynasty owner, I think sell him if you can get RB1 value for him, first off. His ADP is surprisingly accurate in terms of how I feel about him, I would say. He's going as RB20 right now, which is 57 overall. So I think that's fair.
Yeah.
He's going behind Dameon Pierce and J.K. Dobbins, ahead of DeAndre Swift and Miles Sanders. I think I prefer Miles Sanders. I think I prefer Rachaad White currently, who is behind him. But obviously, if Cook goes there and pairs with Rachaad White, that's a fucking coin flip probably for me.
Yeah, I agree, Zach, that I would rather have like a Miles Sanders, right, or a Rachaad White or a couple of guys. But I mean, there's definitely an argument you can make that you'd rather have Dalvin Cook. Than he is to me right now very properly rated in terms of where he's going.
Is it just me, or does it feel like Dalvin Cook had a super short career, even though he's been around for 5 years? Like, it just seems like he burned so bright and just kind of didn't die off, but just the hype went away so quick.
Trevor, that's because you watched him tear up the Packers for his first 2 years and then just do nothing else against the Packers since.
Well, like a lot of Vikings too, he's just played a lot of meaningless football. Like, he's played great. He's played, I don't know how many years he's played, maybe 6, 7.
This will be his 7th season.
7th. Like, how many of his games that he's been really good have mattered in the slightest bit?
Not many. Under 10.
When you look the past 2 seasons, he's combined for a total of 16 touchdowns, with 2 of those coming in the air. That's like just over a half per game. That's not what we've come to expect from him.
You're looking at his stats. How many receiving yards has he had past 2 seasons?
Last 2 seasons, 295 and 224, which were down from 361, 519, and 305.
Well, 500 the last 2 years.
That's interesting, because I think a lot of people still consider him, and I don't think this is a wrong opinion necessarily, but they consider him as one of the premier sort of dual threat guys out of the backfield. I think he has the skill set to do that still, possibly, but clearly he's been used as more of just like that pure runner. lately, which has impacted his fantasy value negatively. But also, that's an aging thing, I think, a little bit for most people, other than like Rex Burkhead, Gio Bernard, who are on year 20 probably for their careers at this point. But he kind of slots in fairly well, maybe next to that Rachaad White role, whereas like Rachaad White will take some running back snaps, but he's also going to catch a lot of passes. Maybe Dalvin Cook is an early down guy now for his career, but he's not really a short yardage guy though either.
And I was just going to bring that up. Like you had mentioned Buffalo, right? Like I hate every running back. Like if a running back goes to Buffalo, I don't want him. Right? They're not going to score touchdowns. Right. And then Miami, like what the fuck is Miami? What is Miami's running game? You know, it seems out of those three, the best being made was Tampa Bay. That split with Rachaad White. But Zach, you're totally like Dalvin Cook cannot fall forward for a yard if they need it, which is crazy.
Yeah, so like if he's an early down guy that's not getting goal line touches, I mean,
which kind of feels like what happened in
Buffalo, that's kind of what Alvin Kamara was last year. Like, we just don't need it. We don't need it for our fantasy team.
Trevor, you are right though. It does feel like Dalvin Cook's like still 23 years old.
Yeah, it's just weird. It doesn't help that James Cook came in, looks just like him.
Fair.
And by the way, James Cook's ADP is only 9 below Dalvin Cook. And would you trust James Cook on your fantasy team whatsoever?
God, no.
Why would you ever trust, like Luke said, a Bills running back?
Yeah, I don't know. That whole backfield sucks, man. I like not even in like a poor skill-wise way. Like Nyheim Hines is there. Let's not forget about that. Zach Moss should still be there. He should be the RB1. Like I don't know. I have no idea what to make of it. Next report, and this is a reporter's report as I wrote it. So let's keep in mind that this is a journalism student doing football analysis. That's all we got to remember that every time we see like a beat reporter giving analysis here. They said it would be shocking if Darren Waller does not lead the Giants in targets this season. And I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but what does that mean to you guys?
I mean, it means nothing. Like I said, I don't necessarily disagree, but what is he competing with?
Correct. Yeah.
Like Saquon Barkley can lead the team in receptions or targets. I mean,
did he last year? It's probably close. I'm actually going to look at that. Trevor, what's it mean to you? Let's say Darren Waller leads the team in targets by 5. Where does he rank among your tight ends?
And does he lead the team in targets per game? Because that's the only way he's going to do it for me. He's played 2 full seasons, and he's been in the NFL for 2, 4, 6, 7. Like, he's only played double digits 4 of those. Like, how do we even think that's going to happen? And Daniel Dimes, he's not like a Lamar, but he's going to run the ball too. I think Barkley will be just fine. And I'm not convinced they go completely away from Daniel Bellinger too. I wouldn't be surprised if they go in 2 tight end sets. I just had the feeling they like him as well. So if Waller leads them in catches, cool, but they're going to be spreading this around a ton, in my opinion.
Who they drafted someone receiver?
Hyatt.
They drafted Hyatt, yeah.
No, not that Hyatt's anything, but you imagine he's involved if they're drafting him.
True. And they drafted Wan'Dale Robinson pretty early, I think 2nd round last year.
Right, yeah.
He got hurt. He's really good, I think. But yeah, Saquon Barkley did lead the team in targets last year with 76. He tied for the league in the team's lead for receptions with 57. Care to guess who that was with?
Oh, shit.
I know. Not Kenny Golladay.
Was it Slayton? Because Shepard got hurt mid-season.
I was going to say maybe Shepard got a bunch to start.
Maybe. Shepard only played 3 games, so it's hard to tell. Wow. Slayton was 2nd in targets. Richie James was tied for 1st in receptions. And he went somewhere else too. Where did he go?
He's at
Kansas City?
Yeah.
Wow.
Also, the Giants have Jamison Crowder now too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, who cares? But like, I like Darren Waller as a player.
Yeah, sure.
I think he's fine. This offense is still set up by the run with Saquon. Darren Waller does not block very well. So, to your point, Daniel Bellinger is going to have a role no matter what. Probably two tight end sets sometimes, but in single tight end sets early down, Darren Waller's probably not in the game. But he's still a mismatch. Like, looking at the division, though, he's a mismatch, obviously, at tight end. He's a former wide receiver, now tight end, big, fast, prototypical guy. That division has a lot of really good cornerbacks, and the Giants don't have really good wide receivers to break man coverage. So I think actually the best way to attack the divisional opponents in the NFC East is probably with the tight end, like matched up on the linebacker and the safety. So I think Darren Waller, to this reporter's point, is going to have a really big role on the team. I just think, let's just say he plays every single game and everybody plays every single game because we are living in fantasy land right now. I think he's like tight end 5 for me. Tight end 4, tight end 5. I think he's good. I think you should draft him as your starter. I just don't think he is going to be the big breakout or anything. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And tight end 4 or 5, from what we've seen the last few years, not that all impressive. I mean, it's not too hard to be tight end 5 week to week.
Correct. That's the thing. Like, is he going to be a new tight end that's consistent for you? I think is probably the best question to ask. And I would guess no. I think he might be more consistent than most in terms of yards. So, which is good because you can't score a touchdown every single week. I don't imagine he scores a lot of touchdowns in this offense.
Yeah.
But then again, we saw, why can't I never remember his fucking name in Buffalo? What's that tight end's name? Dawson Knox. Every single time I want to say Dalton Schultz, but it's Dawson Knox. They're the same fucking player to me. We saw, under Dayball, he scored a bunch of touchdowns. So never know. I just don't think you need to go out of your way to draft him. Currently, he's getting drafted as tight end 7, which is 76 overall. And I think that's fine.
Well, do you have the list of who's right above him?
Okay, so first 2 are obvious, Kelsey, Andrews. Then we got Hawkinson at 3, George Kittle at 4, Kyle Pitts is still at 5, and then we got Dallas Goedert at 6, Darren Waller at 7.
Okay.
So I don't hate where he's at.
Yeah, I don't either.
He is going 10 spots behind Kyle Pitts. And I assume all 3 of us would rather have Waller 10 spots later.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yep. Oh yeah, 10 spots for sure.
Yeah. Would you rather have Darren Waller at 76 or Pat Freiermuth at 96?
Okay, and I was just going to bring up Pat Freiermuth. I think I'd rather have Pat Freiermuth.
I think so too. I think it's close, but
yeah,
getting him later, probably 2 extra guys before you get him, I think I like.
Right. I think whatever, and of course not to a T or anything, but I think what Waller misses in touchdown points, I think Freiermuth can, I don't want to say easily can make up in touchdown points, but I think has a good chance to make up in touchdown points.
I don't know what to make of the Steelers offense just because I think they're so talented. It fully depends on their play caller. So I have no idea.
Sure.
Matt Canada or whatever is, I don't get it. To be completely honest, I feel like he's asleep, murmuring words. I don't know. He's fucking terrible. And they repaired their offensive line, so they should be able to run it more and actually score in the red zone now, which I don't know if that's good for Pat Freiermuth or not, but yeah.
So, did you guys hear real quick about where they think Jameson Williams?
Bet
on.
Did you hear about Zion?
Oh yeah,
he's in some shit.
Okay, did you see Jameson Williams? The understanding of the incident is that he bet on a college football game from an app while in a team hotel in another state. So technically, it still counts as as team facility.
Well, yeah, that's like I mean, that's not nearly the same thing, but that's like John Morant bringing the gun to the Denver hotel or the Denver.
That's not even.
That's different. That's
Well,
different.
You guys are taking it the wrong way. It's just the team facility in a different state is what I meant.
Sure.
But like, if that's right,
That
NFL is going to have so many players suspended for 6 games.
Probably, and that's why they're saying they're opening this much larger investigation now. I'm guessing. Wow.
I know it has nothing to do with fantasy, but it's just very intriguing. Because if that's how stringent the rules are, fantasy is going to get really interesting.
Yeah, watch it. It's going to have to do with fantasy pretty quick, is what it seems like. That's crazy.
Also, I'm sorry. It's crazy that Adam Silver said we're not releasing John Morant information until after the finals.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
Let's wait until we're not in the news as much, and then let's get back in the news, which is smart.
I guess that's the NBA's mantra. No better reality television show than the NBA.
Yeah, I mean they don't. If we're thinking, hopefully, if everyone's a good person here, which I know everyone's not, like they don't want to take away from the NBA finals, like take away from the players that made it there. If we suspend Shaw, then really no one's talking about the NBA finals. They're just going to be talking about Ja.
That's fair. I think if it was Ja's first time, then that would be more acceptable. But the second time, I think you have to release the information immediately.
Also, like they're talking down his suspension so much.
So much.
He's gone a half a season at least.
Oh, no. They started at half season. They're talking less now. Like the PR people for the NBA are doing their fucking jobs. Mm-hmm. They're talking 25 games now. And if they're talking 25 games, then that means it's probably going to be 30. Because they'll be like, see, we suspended him for more. It's the whole thing like we talked about with Deshaun Watson. Like he's gone for at least a year. No, I think you should get 6 games. 12 games. You're welcome. See, we're the good people. Like, no, let's not forget what you fucking said last week. Like, it's so stupid. I hate sports PR, but they're good at it.
Lily Adamas, comeback, home run, Luke.
Nice. Love that.
Okay, let's get off of baseball quickly. Quarterback competition in Washington, Luke. Talking to you, because you're the Sam Howell guy here.
I mean, you guys know where my mind's at with Sam Howell.
I know, but apparently not the same place that Ron Rivera's at. Ron Rivera says Sam Howell is starting the offseason as the QB1, but he may not finish the offseason as the QB1. Jacoby Brissett apparently is getting talked about just as much as Howell. Jacoby Brissett's impressing. I think Rivera also said basically like if Sam Howell does what he should be able to do, then he should be able to stay as QB1. But to me, one, it sounds like a little bit of like a kick in the ass, like put your chicken tenders down and read the fucking playbook.
Yep.
And two, like I do think he's on a short leash though. I don't think he is like won the job and he has a season to prove it. I don't think he has a full season.
I don't disagree with you. I actually very much agree with you on that. My whole thing is Washington, and I guess you probably can't think of this like when you're a coach, right? Washington is probably not going to win this division, but and we talk about this a lot. Like we know what Jacoby Brissett is. As much as I love him, we know that he'll keep you in games. He'll get you 187 yards, a touchdown, and an interception a game. Is Washington's run game good enough to support that? I don't think so. I think Washington just has to go. I mean, they drafted Sam Howell for a reason. They knew once Taylor Heineke's gone, they knew the Carson Wentz experiment wasn't going to work. There's a reason that Sam Howell was drafted. I think you have to go and let him cook for at least the first 5 games of the year and see what you have in this guy that you spent draft capital on. I think if things go wrong, come week 7, then I think we start having a bigger conversation about maybe we get Jacoby Brissett a start or 2 and get Sam Howell back in. I don't think Sam Howell is going to be the savior this year or anything like that. But I think they need to at least get him some time. I mean, investing what was he, a 3rd round pick, 4th round pick for some team? I mean, that's some high draft capital. I think as Washington, you just have to let him cook. But who the fuck knows what goes on in Washington? They're going through like their 18th name change in 4 years. But I mean, if I'm Washington, I said the same thing with I think I said it with Christian Watson or something on Lombardi Sweep. But you have to at some point you have to see what you have in guys, and I think this is a perfect opportunity for Washington to do that.
When coaches pull this shit, it's one of the coach speak things that pisses me off the most. He's not guaranteed the job. Well, no shit, he's not guaranteed the job. Unless your name is like Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen, you're not guaranteed anything. But to your point, Luke, he's like, you drafted this guy. Like, is Jacoby Brissett really going to do that much for you? And even if he does, like, best case scenario, Brissett probably gets you the lowest wild card and you get absolutely spanked down the road. Does a full year of Sam Howell put you any more behind the eight ball than Brissett would? I don't see how it is at all. Like we talked about Matt Corral and the Panthers, he never even got a shot. You have to give this dude a shot at least.
Yeah, I mean, that should hopefully be 100% correct. Yeah, we know what Jacoby Brissett is. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback. Sam Howell, we don't know. You have to let him go. And he looked fine towards the end of last year when he got a shot. He started that one game, I think it was. He looked fine. There's stuff to build on there. But they kind of got cursed with the bye week. They got a week 14 bye, like the Packers did last year. They play at New England in week 9. So I assume Jacoby Brissett makes his first start there. Yeah. I feel like you can't play the Patriots and have Jacoby Brissett on your team and not start him.
Right.
I feel like that happens every time. And they play versus Philadelphia the week before that. So Sam Howell's probably going to get a little too cute, get his head taken off or something. Or get blown the fuck out. Who knows? But yeah, to your point too, like if Sam Howell starts and he's terrible, then good. Like you have a better draft pick.
Right.
There's no point in winning 7 games with a Jacoby Brissett.
I'm also
fucked.
Right. I'm also a big proponent of, there's not a lot of film on Sam Howell. Like Ron Rivera can do a lot of shit right now with Sam Howell that teams have never seen before. And maybe come out and win 2 or 3 games to start the year and kind of put the NFL on notice. Will teams adjust probably very quickly after that. But I don't know. I think you can get a couple of easy wins if you I'm not a smart enough offense coordinator or anything to know what it is, but I think you can do some things with the guy you've never seen before.
And I think the reason I wrote this down, like I think some people are thinking, who cares, Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett. I think for redraft leagues, you're probably not drafting either of those guys.
Agreed.
So my question then is, does your opinion of the other Washington players change depending on who's at quarterback? Because for me, I don't think it changes much, but maybe a little bit.
I was going to say, I don't think so. Like we said, we know Jacoby Brissett can get the ball out. And I think Sam Howell can get the ball out. Like am I drafting, am I staying away from Terry McLaurin if either one of them is starting? I don't think so.
Correct. I think I like Antonio Gibson and Logan Thomas slightly more with Brissett. I think he'll throw to the running back and tight end a little bit, but not dramatic in the absolute slightest. Like I'm not going to move people very much.
I'd agree.
Yeah. So don't hook yourself to either quarterback for dynasty, I don't think. But don't make any crazy opinions on the rest of the Washington guys. I'm starting to come around on Antonio Gibson. You guys are going to have to talk me off the ledge at some point.
I think he's very easily.
I think he's finally going to be used in the role that I was hoping he'd be in his rookie year. Like I think J.D. McKissick's dead for NFL purposes, and he's just going to be the pass catching guy. About time. Weird that the wide receiver turned running back and maybe be your pass catcher. If that's the case, I like him.
Yeah, I also am starting to like Logan Thomas again.
Love Logan Thomas. And he's going to be super disrespected this year. Where do you think he's getting drafted amongst tight ends?
I would say 30s. I'd say somewhere between 25 and 35.
Well, not in the top 50. Tight end 57.
Crazy.
What?
Behind Cameron Latu with the 49ers.
Oh, my goodness.
Crazy.
Is there another Washington tight end ahead of him?
So just don't draft a tight end this year. Like if you're not going to get Kelsey or Andrews, well, what's the point?
He is behind Dan Arnold. How do you feel about that?
Where's Dan Arnold's in Philly? That's tough.
It is tough. I think there might be 3 Philadelphia tight ends ahead of Logan Thomas. This is Yeah, that's so low. Shane Zylstra's tight end 41. Let's dial it back.
There's not 3 Packer tight ends ahead of Logan Thomas.
Luke Musgrave is 37, which should go up. DeGuara is 43.
What?
Tucker Kraft is 66.
Okay.
So
I was going to say, if Kraft is ahead of him, we got to redo all these rankings.
Yeah. Yeah. He beat out Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper 64.
So disrespectful as well.
That is really disrespectful. Elijah Higgins in Miami's 53. He's ahead of both of them. How many Miami tight ends are there? There's at least 2. Tyler Kroft is at Miami.
Huh.
Miami's tight ends suck.
Yep.
Holy fuck. Okay. Rashad White, speaking of running backs you can catch. Rashad White did an interview. So again, take the players' analysis of what their role is going to be with a grain of salt, because it's never fully true. But Rashad White says he expects a lot of balls in the passing game. He added that he will be split out in empty sets, which I think that's the important part.
Mm-hmm.
So like if they go empty, they're going to use him in the slot. I think that's a big deal. Last year he caught 50 passes, and that's with, they were still using Leonard Fournette as a passing down guy a lot of the time for no reason. Like he should have been the pass protector, but he shouldn't have been running routes. I don't get it. Currently, Rashad White's basically the only guy there. They got Chase Edmonds, who's terrible. I think Tampa needs to bring in another guy. We talked about Dalvin Cook. I think Ezekiel Elliott fits there. I mean, there's a number of guys they could bring in. Kenyon Drake could even go there and have a role.
Leonard Fournette could go back.
For sure. Like there's a number of Kareem Hunt could go there. Kareem Hunt's really good. Wherever he goes, he's getting snaps.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I'm a little hesitant on Rashad White because of that. But if somehow he goes into the season with this role, I think he's a high-end RB2, low-end RB1. I think he's right there.
I 100% agree, and solely for the fact that I talked about before, I hate this quarterback room. Is this the first year that Mike Evans doesn't get 1,000 yards? It very well could be. If we're going into the season with this roster, obviously we won't. To me, that just means give the ball to Rashad White, and Rashad, you get us out of these sticky situations. Love him for, you have to imagine if you have either Mayfield or Trask, you can get a lot of 2nd and 20s, 3rd and 25s. That just screams to me. You guys know how much I love guys who line up all over the offense. It really feels to me like Rashad White is the is the guy that here's the ball, get us out of here.
Yeah, and he did some of that even last season with Tampa Bay when they had Tom Brady at the helm. These quarterbacks are bad. This team is bad, and I don't think they can pass. Like usually, bad teams fall behind. They have to pass, and the running backs go down. I think if that happens, they know they have to play through White. So either way, I think he gets his.
I'm also not a big believer in the offensive scheme there, like coordinator. Their offensive line still isn't amazing. I mean, they got Cody Tud Mach. I love him, tackle at North Dakota State. He's going to be their right guard, so he's going to have to learn to play guard. They got Luke Gedeke at right tackle. He's not that good. Matt Filer at left guard. He's not that good. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of interior pressure, which is going to destroy Baker Mayfield. Like, that's what kills him. So yeah, there's a lot of yuck on this team, I guess, but they have to bring in another running back. That's the biggest thing. They have to do it.
Yep.
Especially because Baker Mayfield is pretty good when he gets to work off of play action.
100% at his best.
Right. But if he doesn't have a running game, he can't do that. So yes. Last thing I have here, Falcons main kick returner, Avery Williams, running back. He was in that whole stable there. He tore his ACL in practice, which sucks. He's out for the season. He was their main kick returner. And this is just your weekly reminder that Cordell Patterson's still a fucking guy. And let's stop disrespecting him because he's here now.
And I'm sorry, Avery Williams, but this is God saying that put Cordero Patterson back to return kicks.
Let's cut the shit.
But if that happens, I mean, this makes me love Bijan Robinson just that much more.
Yeah. And I mean, I fucking love Cordell Patterson, by the way. Like, he had 6 rushing touchdowns last year, I think 8 rushing touchdowns the year before that. He's going to be used. Every time he steps foot on the field, he is still the most dangerous guy on the field.
100%.
Like, he is going to be used with Bijan Robinson. Like, they're going to be on the field together, whether it's Cordero split out, whether it's Robinson split out, because he can do that as well, whether it's both of them in the backfield. They're going to be on the field together because, in my opinion, I think they might be the 2 best offensive weapons they got. Like, for sure, Bijan Robinson. But I think Cordell Patterson is still probably a top 3 offensive weapon that they have.
I think I agree.
And he's a mismatch nightmare. Like, we don't know where he's going to be used. You talked about Deebo Samuel being that kind of guy out of the backfield. Cordell Patterson has proved that the last 2 years. He's an older guy, but he still has a lot of tread on the tires. Like, he wasn't really taking hits for the first 8 years of his career. So, yeah, I think, where's he going? He's probably not getting drafted amongst running backs either. But he is a guy that, again, I'm not reaching for him. I'm not planning to start him as my, not even really in my flex, but I think he's going to be there. Cordell Patterson going as running back 59 in PPR leagues. That is just behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Chase Brown, Zach Evans. Just ahead of Michael Carter, Patrick Taylor, RB3 on the Packers. Yeah. Sean Tucker, Jerome Ford. So he is, again, 207 overall. He's undrafted. Take him.
Take him with your last pick.
If some unfortunate thing happens to Bijan Robinson in the offseason program where he gets hurt, we know the Falcons feel fine putting Cordero Patterson as their RB1 back there.
And we talked about it ad nauseum, but Atlanta wants to run the ball. That's what Arthur Smith is about, running the ball. Atlanta is an awesome offensive line built to run the ball. I think even if Bijan doesn't go down, you need to at least take a look at Cordero Patterson.
Yeah, but he is going to be used all over the formation. He's not a 75-80 snap guy. He wasn't even when he was a really good fantasy producer. But he is a guy that you can move all over the field, which is especially useful in the red zone, which is why we saw him score all those red zone touchdowns. Like, just moving him all over. Defenses have to communicate. It creates miscommunications. It creates coverage nightmare.
Yeah.
And he's going to find himself free. So that doesn't change. He's still here. And now, if your league counts kick return yardage, it sounds like he's back returning kicks as well. Again, well, there's very, very few kick returners in the NFL now.
Correct.
Plain and simple. With the new fair catch rule, there's even fewer. But if Cordero Patterson catches the football, he's looking to extend his touchdown record. How often is Cordero Patterson going to fair catch? I would say less than the average player.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah, so like, he's a great guy to have in those types of leagues. We were in a league last year that really promoted kick return yardage. And I assume there's going to be more leagues like that this year, given the fair catch rule. So,
yep. Agreed.
Luke, do you want to give the question you got from your friend? Let's go out on that.
Yeah, and Trevor, I'm sorry, I was talking to Zach about it before you got on, but this would be good to get your overall reaction. Let me pull it up here.
And shout out Theo Barr in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us.
So the question was, Damian Pierce and Aaron Jones for a 2024 first-round pick. He has 2 2024 first-round picks. He would be getting the 2 running backs, giving up the pick. You muted.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. Dynasty, one's getting Pierce and Jones, and the other's getting a first?
Yeah. Yes.
So which side do you like better?
Aaron Jones is getting older, but I still think I'm going with the 2 running backs. And I don't think it's really that close. I think Aaron Jones definitely gives you a great year this year. Probably gives you a pretty solid year next year. And then after that, it's irrelevant because I think Dameon Pierce can probably go yard for yard with a first. So I would easily go the two running backs.
I would agree. And before the show, Zach and I had said, you rather have the player than the pick. You know what the player is, you don't know what the pick is.
It's kind of like that
Right.
episode in Family Guy where they offer Peter the boat or the mystery box, and Peter's like, "Well, the mystery box could be a boat," and then he just gets what, like a marker or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's every single year. Like, how many first round dynasty picks don't work out? How many first round regular NFL draft picks don't work out? Like,
Well,
we know
yeah.
these are two guys. They're two good players.
Well, and like that's the other thing I don't get. I don't know. Is this a dynasty league that he's in?
Yeah.
Like even like a trade that I made last year was a first, third, and a fourth for Deebo. Third and the fourth turned into. I mean, we saw this draft that was worth nothing, and a first round. Who knows what next year is going to be for a guy who can trade for like a Ra? You take the players every time.
Yeah, and I didn't say this, but especially in this situation, he's got 2 first round picks in 2024.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you should be able to trade, Dameon Pierce for a first round pick if he's really good or whatever. Like, he's a young running back.
Even Aaron Jones, I know he's in this league with a bunch of Packer fans.
Yeah, I mean, perfect. Like, the only reason you would even think about not doing it is you're trying to get one of the big quarterbacks next year. But even still, like, again, you got 2 good running backs, and one of them's probably going to have a good year, and you can probably package your other first with one of the good running backs and move up to get the quarterback if you really need to.
And I mean, with fantasy being so unpredictable, let's say Jones and Pierce both do really well. That alone, some years with injuries, can take you to the semifinals or the finals of the playoffs.
For sure. For sure. And yeah, everyone's got a deep bench in dynasty leagues seemingly, but if you're adding 2 legitimate starters to your team, to your bench, to wherever on your team, like, that's only good. If you have 4 good running backs on your team, you're in a really, really good spot.
I was gonna say I just had my startup dynasty draft, 12 teams. There are maybe there's probably about 24 running backs that you can slide in at 1 and 2. If you can get 4 of them, that's incredible.
Yeah, and that becomes more valuable in the middle of the season. So you can make another trade if you need to. Otherwise, try to use them to get to the championship.
Mm-hmm.
No need to rebuild. Just try to fucking win every year.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I just because I like how we kind of bag on the Cardinals once a fantasy football show. So I just wrote down the top 3 Cardinals receivers are under 5'9" because that's funny.
Yeah, they suck.
Mm-hmm.
They're no good. They're a bad football team, and their new head coach is a fucking moron too. Like, congratulations. They're just, I hate them. The only person I like is Colt McCoy, and I hope he tears it up this year.
Right.
I hope he wins MVP.
Hell yeah.
Because that would be the funniest thing of all time. Not going to happen, but I would like it. But yeah, every single week during the fantasy football season, we will be live at least once. We will be doing more live streams, obviously, during the off season here to help you prepare for your drafts, help you win your league. If you're watching on YouTube, there is a link down below for Trophy Smack, which has the best fantasy football awards, whether it be championship belts, trophies, rings. They got new like magnetic wall art, which is awesome, super customizable. I created it, I haven't bought it yet. You can create like Pokemon cards essentially of an art of whatever you want. So I made like a Dan Campbell one, which is kind of funny. Like, you can do that. They got draft boards there. So if you have a live draft coming up, now's the time to buy your draft board. So buy it through the link below to help support us. And if you buy art, you get 10% off as well through my link. Which is
draft boards are awesome.
Awesome. Live drafts are so much better.
100%.
So much better.
Especially if you have like that taco in your league, or like the Andre, drafts Chris Carter. And especially if you have like a sticker bitch. Basically, if you're the league from Hulu, that's great.
For sure. That's how my friend group did our drafts every single year growing up, and there's always people like that. It's the best way to do it, and someone always makes a stupid pick right away.
Yep,
and it's the best.
The best.
So much fun.
One time, the last time I used a draft board was when Antonio Brown was on the Raiders, and I drafted him in the second round.
Nice.
Yep.
Good. That must have been good. There was one year we were drafting during the preseason game. Somebody drafted Jordy Nelson when he was on the Raiders, and literally like 5 minutes later, he tore his ACL. They had to just go through the rest of their draft. Tough stuff. But yeah, also if you're watching, subscribe, follow wherever you're at. But let us know again what you want in your perfect fantasy football draft kit, because we are creating the best free fantasy football draft kit on the market this year. Whatever you want in it, we will do it. So let us know now while we're creating it, because once it's out, you can't complain. Go fuck yourself. But for now, let us know, because we'll be nice guys right now.
Within reason. Let's
I mean,
put that caveat in there.
Hey, throw whatever you want against the wall and see if it sticks.
Some of our fans are a little wild. We might need to dial it back a little bit.
Hey, make me say no. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we will be back soon, probably next week, maybe this weekend. Who knows what's in store? But make sure you follow us so you don't miss it.